The Easter egg is not so hard this time. Or, this is just a power switch.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, JC, and today I have a very important video for all of you. Now, there's been all this talk about the Giant and everything. We've seen the Giant now in the Origins trailer, and it looks amazing. It looks very intimidating towards us, and it raises questions like, who made this thing? Why was it made? And where was it made? And I'm going to try to answer that for you guys in the video. Now, you know, I could be wrong. This is all just theory. Please keep that in mind. It's all just a theory. But, of course, you guys can add to this theory, or if you have any of your own ideas and thoughts about it, you can put them in the comments section below, and I'll gladly look over them and respond to them. I love doing that. You guys know I do. But, all right, continuing on here, the very first hint at the Giant dates back 4 years ago when we first played Shi No Numa. I'm not kidding you. The very first radio that we've ever heard in the whole storyline actually hints at the Giant, which is very odd and it's very intriguing at the same time. I'm going to play that for you guys right now.
R-4808N 371406 115 4840.
Receiving this transmission, Peter. If you are not, then all is already lost. You must know by now that we failed to contain the asylum. Now we had to move the experiment here. Location. The numbers will guide you. The Giant must remain at all costs. Repeat, Der Riese must be safe at all costs. The DG2 experiments continue. Might be our only advantage now. Find Dr. Maxis. Only they may know what's going on. The use of 115 is dangerous at best. I'm not sure how long we can continue here. We've lost most of our best people. I hope you get this. I hope it hasn't happened there too. But I'm almost out of hope.
6054 06.96 101 55 44.94.
Alright, so what could we get out of this message to really sell us on the idea that they're talking about the Giant in Origins? Now, there's a couple of words that I highlighted for you guys. Hopefully you guys saw them. They were the words the Giant, of course, and Der Riese. Now, you know, a lot of people have been saying for a while, you know, that, like, what's Der Riese's real meaning? And why is it so important? Now, I'm going to make the connection here, and some of you guys may believe it or not, and some of you guys may just think this is what the facility is called for some weird reason, but I'm going to say this, alright? Der Riese means the Giant. That is what the phrase means, okay? Now, what if, think about this, right? What if the reason the facility is called the Giant is because the Giant was built there, and that facility, its whole goal, one of its main projects, was to build the Giant. Now, think about that, and does that make sense to you guys? Now, I'm going to move on to a radio in Der Riese, and I want you guys to listen to it, and it's of Maxis speaking about, you know, all of his projects that he has going on, and he's telling, you know, Sophia to give a letter to the Reichstag, or whatever, however you say it. And just listen to what he's saying, and you might be enlightened by what I'm talking about.
Sophia, this letter is to go to the Reichstag High Command immediately. Gentlemen, it is with the utmost urgency that I draw your attention to the lack of funding being injected into the Giant project. While I believe we are close to realizing the ultimate plan, we still have several years of development before it is ready. It would be folly to cut our expenditures so early in our development. As you know, Early tests on the DG2 have easily outperformed expectations, and we fully anticipate mass-producing the Wunderwaffe within the next few years. Work on the matter transference has, however, come to a standstill. We simply do not have enough Element 115 to continue the experiments. The test subjects have survived teleportation, but are currently unresponsive to commands and cannot be controlled. If we are to overcome this obstacle, we need to increase the frequency and size of the experiment. To this end, I suggest we find not only a regular supply of 115, but that we also find a larger conduit to channel the energy. Our operatives in America have informed us that the U.S. has a large supply of the element at the Nevada base. So time is of the essence if we are to stay ahead of them. This cannot be done if you cut the budget, nor can it be done if you insist on pressuring us into action before we are ready. I am, of course, available for discussion on the matter, but in the meantime, I will continue with the work here and try to win this damned war. Signed, etc., Dr. Maxis.
Alright, so what would all of this mean? Now, I really want you guys to think about this, so try to imagine this the best you can, because it's really important. Imagine Der Riese split in half. And imagine two different projects going on at once. You have two doctors working on two different projects. You have Dr. Richthofen on one side of Der Riese, just imagine it like that. And you have Maxis on the other side of Der Riese, and they're both working on their own projects. You have Richthofen on this side making teleportation projects and, matter transference, mainly teleportation and all that, because he wanted to improve the human condition, and him and Dr. Schuster that's what they were set out to do. They really wanted to do this. This was their, this was their baby, was matter transference and teleportation. That's what they were researching for a very long time. And eventually he does move a walnut, which we figure out in Moon, in one of the radios. He does move a walnut. And he eventually moves himself to make himself go insane, but we won't get into that. Now, you have Richthofen over here wanting to improve the human condition. And you have Maxis on this side wanting to make weapons and all of that sort. Now, why is Maxis doing this? Why is he making all these weapons and all these, he's trying to make a zombie army. He's doing all this stuff that seems destructive. And this brings me to my very first question at the very beginning of this. Or there's actually 3 questions, and all 3 are going to be answered pretty much in this radio. Now, one of the questions was, why was the giant built? This is what I'm talking about. It was, to me, I believe the giant was made by Maxis, which answers who built it. I think Maxis built it because that was one of his weapons that he was building. That was one of his goals of his project. And his project is even called the Giant Project. That's his project name that he was working on. Alright, so what is Maxis' whole goal with the Giant? What's his whole motive behind even making this thing? And this actually brings me back to the radio once again, and Maxis says this, and I quote, "Gentlemen, it is with the utmost urgency that I draw your attention to the lack of funding being injected into the Giant Project." Unquote. And what I get from this pretty much is that Maxis and Group 935 in general need funding. And in order to get the funding that he needs to continue their researching, to continue their projects, to continue their prototype weaponry, not just weaponry, but just ways to improve humans and, ways to develop new technologies, they need funding. They need money. They're running out of money. And the only way he can get this is from the Nazis. And I'll explain that a little bit more in depth. Now, there's a radio in Moon, and it's the one where Richthofen and Schuster, they finally teleport a walnut. They finally do it, and Maxis is impressed slightly, but he tells them secretly that Group 935 needs funding, and that they just finalized a deal with the Nazi Party to provide them weapons and such to help them with the war. So think about what Maxis is probably thinking in his head. He's probably thinking, all right, so we give the Nazis weapons to win the war. We give them prototype weapons. We give them weaponry. We give them anything they need, really, for the war. And as soon as we know it, the war will be over. Then we won't have to supply them with weapons anymore. And we'll have our funding that we needed to continue with our own researching and our own ways to improve the normal human condition. That was Group 935's whole goal from the beginning. That was their motto. The only reason Maxis is making all this stuff is to help the Nazis. And that's where I think the Giant comes in. I think the reason why the Giant is made was for the Nazis. I think that's literally what its purpose was. It was a super soldier for the Nazis to win the war. I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but it might not have been just for the Nazis. He might have made it just to get money. You don't know. He could give it to the Nazis, give it to the the Germans, essentially, and that would help their war machine. It would. The question now is, where would this thing be built? We know why it was built. We know the motives behind Maxis now. We know who built it. We know Maxis built it. We know why he built it. But the question is where. And I'm just going to say it right now, Der Riese. And I know a lot of you guys aren't going to agree with me, but bear with me here. Now, for those of you who do not know who Play the Game is, or Ben for that matter, and I give Ben full credit for pointing this out first, but he noticed that in the Der Riese spawn area, it's a very odd spawn when you think about it. This is supposed to be a facility. Like, this is teleporting. Like, there's teleportation going on. There's a bunch of other tests going on at this facility. But it's just weird how you spawn in this very big open area. And there's fences. There's a bunch of walls around the area. There's even a giant wall protecting, splitting the middle of the map so that almost like nothing could get by. Now, this to me seems like where the Giant was built. And I know it's very far-fetched. I know some of you guys won't agree with me. But you just got to think about it. Have an open mind. Imagine, instead of this mainframe and stuff here, you had this Giant that was just sitting on top of this, this podium thing, this stadium. And he's just sitting up on top. It might not, maybe when Treyarch had the idea of this, they didn't think it was going to be 1,000 feet tall. You know what I mean? So, just think of it like in this one area. And then what even sells me on the idea that I thought of is that you have these drains all around this area. And what I think that's for is that Group 935, say the Giant went out of control, which it probably did. But say it went out of control and they needed to flood the whole area where it was being built. They could just flood this whole area with water. They flood the whole Giant, just completely destroy the project. And then it would drain from those drains that you see all around this area. That's what I think they're for. I think this whole area could be flooded because this is where the Giant was built. Now, why do I think the Giant was built here? Is there any other reasons for that? The main reason is this spawn area, and also the word Der Riese itself, the name of this facility. I know you guys, I know Der Riese, and it means the Giant, but when you think about it, Der Riese, known, like in Group 935's terms, Der Riese is the Der Riese Facility. And if Der Riese means the Giant, then it's the Giant Facility. It's the facility where the Giant was created. I mean, it seems almost too simple, but it seems like a logical explanation. So that's pretty much where I leave you guys. It's now in your hands. I want you guys to tell me what you think about all this in the comments below. Tell me if you thought this is a good theory, if you thought most of this stuff was credible, and give this video a like if you guys please would. That would be awesome. It'd be greatly appreciated because I spent a lot of time subtitling all this stuff, going back to all these radios. It took a lot of time to make this video, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any further comments towards this theory, please leave them in the comments below. Like I said before, I would gladly look over them and tell you what I think about them. I mean, it's not set in stone that this is where the giant was built. It's just what I think. What I think personally, and what a lot of other people are starting to think now. So that about wraps things up, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the origins of the giant. And hopefully we'll find out more in the last map, of course. And I cannot wait to play that map soon with you guys. So that about wraps things up. This has been JC, and I'll see you guys next time.